What's up? What?
You don't have to come in without ID. You can't come in without ID. Get out.
I got my driver's license.
Come on.
You need a badge. You have to step back out.
Badges?
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 We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
Need a badge.
Hey, you ever see that? Badges? Who do you guys work for? Who do you work for? Who do you work for? Come on, man. Sorry.
We don't need no stinking badges.
Sorry. So hopefully everyone else enjoys it as much as I do. That was so like when I in the 90s that used to be on I think Steve Dahl's show and stuff, and the first thing I thought that was an illegal camp that they were housing illegal immigrants. They had 4 security guards, and I went in there pretend I didn't speak English at first with my hat backwards and.
Yeah, might get some entitlements out of that if you could fool them.
And I only got in so far, and they started asking for badges. I don't need no stinking badges. So
well, we're back together, right, Terry? It's been a couple weeks.
Yes. So, we just wanted to kick off a little lighthearted. We might talk a little bit about the illegals. But so we have a pretty interesting show tonight. We have 2 different spectrums. Of,
2 guests.
2 different guests, right? So the first one we're going to have is Rebecca Friedrichs, and she wrote the book Standing Up to Goliath. And I met Rebecca at America Fest. What's wrong, buddy?
You're supposed to show the book when you say.
Oh
Yeah, here we
Look it up
go. Here, okay, there you go,
Good
Rebecca.
call.
I was going to do it later.
Thank you, producer.
But
And it's Friedrichs.
Oh, Friedrichs, sorry.
Thanks.
Thank you, Friedrichs. So
So
Rebecca, just so you know, all right. So when I went to high school, I had a 4.0 average. I had a 1.0 freshman year, 1.0 sophomore, 1.0 junior, and 1.0 senior. All right, so
We weren't teaching anything there anyways.
Right. We had a bunch of Democrats teaching me, so I'm sorry. Sorry.
So Rebecca, we want to lead in for you with a couple of stories that might be relevant to your experience. Jason, you want to pull up that first one for our Governor Pritzker there?
But hold on a second. We got to also say we have another guest.
Oh, we do have another
But
guest.
Rebecca,
Yes.
We have Sergeant Perry's parents on.
Yeah.
Rachel and Scott. And Sergeant Perry's from Austin. He was the Army soldier.
Sergeant,
like a little kid. Army Sergeant soldier. And he was doing DoorDash, I think, and he got caught up in that 2020 BLM stuff, and they attacked his car.
Guy with an AK-47.
Yeah, AK-47. The guy shot to protect himself, and the police officers who investigated said it was self-defense. But a radical leftist, George Soros, prosecutor, prosecuted the guy, and he got 25 years in prison. His mom and dad are going to be in here. Governor Abbott's supposed to pardon him, so we'll talk about that later. But we'll go back to Rebecca.
So Jason, you want to pull up a couple? We got some stories about schools, obviously. While we're going to be speaking to Rebecca, we want to talk about what's going on in the schools and get her input. So here in Illinois, this is a big problem. Terry and I have been fighting this for a while, and they have there's pornography in the schools. So there you see an article from the Prairie State Wire. Governor Pritzker says access to animated pornography allows Illinois children to see different perspectives. Well, that's for sure, Terry. And one of the big problems of the book ban bill is that it basically disallows parents from trying to get this crap out of their schools. So moving on to another story, we got a crazy liberal politician out of Colorado here. And she introduced a bill which would allow kids to change their names at school without parental knowledge and would punish teachers who don't comply. In that little video there, she's just basically saying, well, she's a communist and she doesn't believe that parents have the right to challenge the public school system. So, that's basically communism. We'll move on to another. Libs of TikTok is a good place to go for everybody if you want to find out what the moral depravity of our country's school system is becoming. This story out of West Virginia is about a drag queen teacher who was arrested on child sexual exploitation charges. So you're going to see a lot more of this stuff where you're not just going to see the introduction of pornography and stuff like that in the schools, but actually people getting arrested for, child exploitation. So that's in West Virginia, very red state. And then bringing it back to Illinois. There you go. Here's something that the liberals might be interested in. You can see while they focus on this DEI, this critical race theory, the pornography in the schools, you can see it's having a really good effect on, the actual learning in the classroom, as Illinois does not have a single student who can do math at grade level in 53 Illinois schools, Terry. So with that being said, we have Rebecca on. And I'd love to hear your perspective on some of those stories, Rebecca, because it pretty much seems to me like the Democrats are purposefully trying to destroy our children's future with, what they're trying to introduce them into these schools.
But first do the elevator pitch of who you are, a little more background, and then say your name properly, because I screwed that up.
Sure. So I'm Rebecca Friedrichs, longtime public school teacher. Sad to, it's very sad to see what's happened to our public schools. They're a nightmare. I taught 28 years elementary school. My husband, Charles, taught 42 years in the public school system. We're very well equipped to talk about what's going on in the public schools. And so the first thing I'd like to say is the problem is one thing. Unions. So the unions are the one leading this entire communist agenda against our children, against our country. And they are very effective because their goal for the public schools is not to educate children. It's to dumb children down and to indoctrinate them so that tyrants can rule. And that's what's going on. So you see that all those stories you shared, I read the exact same stories this week. Sadly, not surprised anymore. Let's start with the test scores in Illinois. 53 schools where not one child is proficient in reading. That's 100% by design. The unions and their friends in the 1930s, mid-1930s, started the removal of phonics from all of our reading programs. It took them a long time to do it to the entire country. Teachers at the time were screaming, this isn't working, bring the phonics back. But they replaced it with things like Dick and Jane, which is a look-say method, which is not reading, it's memorizing. So we now have millions of functionally...
That's why I said your name wrong, by the way.
Actually, my last name's German, so you get a...
All right, 1.0. Take it easy over there.
I love it. But anyway, the point is, our children aren't reading by design. Now, most teachers don't know this. Most teachers in the system are still good people who don't know they're in a corrupt system. The activists that you showed, these activist quote teachers, they're union activists that are communists that are put in the schools by the unions. But most teachers are unaware that their union is the problem, that they're in a corrupt system, and they've gone through a corrupt system. So I hate to say it, longtime teacher, I'm saying this, I'm not putting down teachers. Most teachers have not been taught how to teach reading correctly, how to teach mathematics correctly, how to teach history. They're not teaching civics at all, Western civilization. So there's so much, the classics, there's so much our kids aren't getting anymore, and it's all by design.
Yeah,
so
the unions would...
So Rebecca, do you think, you said that teachers don't know. Do you really think they don't know? I mean, they got to know, right? I mean, they're teachers, they're smart. They have to know.
Well, hold on a second, and that's a good lead into my question. What started it was, back in the 60s, well, even before that, right, was the Frankfurt School, and how they're planning to introduce the socialist model into the universities, right? So it started at the university level. If you could expand on that, Rebecca, because from what I understand, it started at the university level. And then James Lindsay wrote his book about the Marxification of education, talked about Paulo Freire and bringing it down to the level of the junior high students and the high school students.
Yep, I'll do just a high level highlight or headlines. So 1857, National Education Association was founded. They've always been socialists. They've never been silent about it, never been shy about it. They didn't tell teachers, but if you read their writings, it's very obvious. They got in bed with a lot of other socialists. Frankfurt School was started at Columbia University in 1933. That was the beginning of the demise. Their first goal was to educate people that would become administrators, college professors, K-12 superintendents, principals, those sorts of people, educate them and get them pushing socialism. Again, a lot of these people didn't even know they were pushing socialism. They were just taught this in the university. And they get into the system and start pushing it all the way down. And then pretty soon, all of our teachers' colleges around the country are taken over by this socialist model. So by the late 50s and then big time in the 60s, they got their stronghold. They were able to remove prayer from the schools, remove the 10 Commandments from the wall of every classroom, remove the Bible from schools. People can still have the Bible there, but we used to actually start every school day with Bible verses, principle, reading it, to the whole school, or prayer, which is a good thing, because those Judeo-Christian virtues are what lead us to a republic. Our founders told us the only way to have a free republic is with a well-educated, moral citizenry that can self-govern. So that's how our founders set up our school system. They didn't make public schools. They didn't make these giant, industrial complex schools with football teams and everything. They had little schools, little primer schools, home schools, one-room schoolhouses, and these children had to learn how to read before they could even come into the school system. So they're learning how to read at home or from a tutor or however they get their reading instruction, and then they come into the school system already reading. Reading is key. If you can't read, you can easily be controlled by tyrants. If you can't write in handwriting, because they're not teaching the cursive anymore, you can't read our primary documents, and someone can lie to you about what's in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. So this has all been very much by design, not only through the universities, but through the K-12 schools, and the unions, the so-called teacher unions, have always been the wicked tool that's been used to infiltrate these schools at every single level. And Terry, you asked, really, teachers don't know that? Really, they don't. The majority of teachers have no idea that their union is the problem. I know teachers all over the country before the COVID hit, and I was suing the unions, and we're bringing a lawsuit against them to stop forced unionism. Every government employee was forced to fund unions as a condition of employment for over 40 years. So teachers have always just shelled out the money, never even questioned it. Right. Well, when I was suing the unions, a lot of teachers were mad at me. Even Christian teachers who were against all this radical stuff, they were mad at me because they saw the union as their savior. That's how we get a raise. That's who sticks up for us. Teachers don't understand, a lot of teachers don't understand, that it's the union that is destroying your economy, destroying your profession, damaging your students, sexualizing your students, ruining your classroom by working with Obama to bring in anti-discipline policies. So now your classroom's a war zone. Right. Yeah. All of it's the fault of unions, but most teachers really don't know. And the reason I know they don't know is they go running to the union every time something goes wrong. And it's the ones that figure it out. Oh my goodness, the union didn't defend me when I didn't want an experimental shot. Oh, the union didn't defend me over this, discipline problem. And they finally start to awaken. So teachers are awakening slowly, but please, I hope your audience will help us to awaken more.
But Rebecca, isn't that more of a function of the marriage of the political class with those unions? Because those are supposed to be separate entities, right? A union is supposed to represent the workers, right, and be a negotiating arm against the in the private area against the owners, right, or the owner class. And then, as I would understand it from the public perspective, I would think that a union would be, the representation of the workers against the government. But that's not what we see. What we see is a marriage of the two. And it almost seems like the bureaucracy has absorbed the unions, and now the policy of the bureaucracy is being dictated by those unions as well. Because we saw during COVID in Illinois, many of these, policies that were put into play were hidden in bills or in aid packages from the federal level that came down to the states. Like, hey, we're giving you a ton of money, but hey, you're doing this. Right. So can you make that distinction? Is there a difference there between, say, what's happening with like a public teachers union versus maybe a private, laborers union?
Yeah, you're what you just described is 100% correct. The only thing I would change is the bureaucracy didn't take over the unions. The unions engulfed the bureaucracy. Okay. So what happened was you have all these politicians who, want to get elected. And so the unions give them millions. They gave Obama $1 billion in his second run. Right. So they come up with a lot of money, and they coerce teachers and other government employees to be boots on the ground campaign helpers because they bully them. I literally know teachers who've gone door to door helping to elect someone they don't even like and they're not voting for because they're so terrified of the union who tells them you better do this or we're going to, knock you around a little bit.
Right.
So the unions have very much a cartel attitude and behavior, and they bully their quote members. They're not for the members. The members that think the unions are for them, government union, you think your government unions going in and, bargaining for you. You're wrong. They tell you they're doing that because that's how they keep you hooked. That's how they keep you on their heroin. They're going to keep giving you a raise. They're going to give you a pension. But in the meantime, they're destroying your economy. They're putting people like Biden in office. In my state, California, I'm twins with you guys in Chicago. Yeah. Our legislature has a 2/3 plus supermajority of radical communist leftist Democrats who were all put in office by the so-called teacher union. Now in California, thanks to the teacher union and their politicians, you can now kill a baby 30 days after that baby's born. I don't know anyone who agrees with that. Boys can dominate girls' sports because of the unions.
Right.
Boys can run into girls' locker rooms because of the unions. It's all the unions. So they claim to be your savior. They're not. Yes. They're the devil in disguise. And government unions are 100% the reason this country's falling apart. They're the reason Biden's in office. They're the reason that the borders are open. They're for defunding police and abolishing ICE. So it's the unions in every single way. And the thing you talked about like the ownership class and all that, that's a typical union way of divide and conquer. Yeah. So look, my son works for SpaceX. Okay. He works for Elon Musk. He admires Elon for being a hardworking man and for sacrificing everything, putting his money and everything on the line. So my son can have a great job. And by the way, he can buy stock options and, have a really good future. My son isn't angry at his boss, the ownership class. He respects the guy. Whereas the unions, they have to turn everybody against each other, right? There has to be the bad guy superintendent and the good guy teacher. That's divide and conquer, classic communist, classic tyrant tactics. So if people think the union's actually helping them, they're not. And if you think they're giving you a raise to survive in this economy, I challenge you, look at who caused this bad economy. It was the unions. You wouldn't need that bigger raise if they didn't destroy your economy. So it's a scam.
I don't know if I told you this at America Fest. I Southwest Side Italian American Union Democratic family was right. My dad worked for the city of Chicago. My uncle ran the People's Energy Union. I'm still in 2 unions. I switched careers a long time ago. So I presented to the Italian American Labor Council. My friend Joe Martucci was the president of the Teamsters. He's a Republican now. He's retired. He was there forever. He invited me to present to the Italian American Labor Council all the different unions, right? Carpenters, plumbers, and I sat at this big table and I presented and I showed the pictures from genderqueer. So these guys are leaders inside the unions. And they're older guys, so they got grandchildren there in schools. And I showed them. They didn't know about the stuff. I'm handing it out. They're like, oh, my God, what? They're picking up the phones. They're calling their sons, their daughters. Is this in our grandkids' schools? And then, sorry, I had to bring the mic up closer per Jason. Come on. Look, I don't talk loud enough. Are you kidding me? And so these guys actually got up off the table and called in the middle of my presentation, right? Like, this is in the schools? They don't even know. They got upset. So when I finished my presentation to them, I was told not to go in there and try to convert them, right? I said I was a Democrat. I'm Italian like you guys. I'm now a Republican. But I didn't try to convert them because they're so tightly coupled with the Democrats, right? The one guy that was like a top electrician's unit sat next to me. He's like, wow. He goes, yeah, it's in my kid's school. I'm in a tight spot now. Because they are, it's... Yeah, they're tied in. They're so when I finished my presentation to them, I stood up and I said, listen, guys, it doesn't matter if you're in a union on one hand, if you're a doctor, or if you're a salesperson like me, why are we all working? We're working for our families, our children, our grandchildren, right? So if we don't have a country, who cares about your union, right? I mean, there's got to be a point in time. And I said, you got to go to BJ, I call him BJ Prickster, our governor. You guys are tough Italian guys. I go, you need to go to him because he's not going to turn his back on you. He won't turn his back on you and say, listen, what are you doing to our children and grandchildren? You guys need to call him out and stop sitting on the sidelines. He's not going to turn his back on you, and you got to help us parents. And then this was on a Thursday, it's before the last election, and I had a guy named Skippy call me 9:30 on a Friday night and say, Joe Martucci gave me your number. He goes, I helped found the Millwrights Union 45 years ago. I'm retired now. He goes, when you showed me that stuff that's in my grandkids' schools, he goes, I couldn't sleep last night. I couldn't sleep. Wow. He goes, listen, he goes,
Porn.
He goes, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a Christian before I'm a union member. He goes, I met with Pritzker for this last election. He goes, Terry, I can't work for that guy. How can I help you? And that made me feel so good. That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why you're doing what you're doing, right? So he actually, Skippy, I don't know if you're watching, he comes and supports me when we confronted the libraries and stuff. And so, it's great to get these guys to waken up, but they have to understand that, yes, in the short-term gains of getting your raises and all this other stuff, right? We're not going to have a country unless, we save our country.
I got a lot of labor union buddies, and they're telling me that most of these guys all work because, like, my point is that the Republican Party's just, they don't understand that they are the working class party now, that the Democrats have become. So they're all like telling me that most of the guys that they know, they're all voting Republican now. So
Rebecca, what kind of advice can you give Illinois teachers on what to do to fight against the unions, and what you did?
Terry, we got to mention one thing. We got to get Rebecca's input on this, the current situation. So, Rebecca, we have a state Senate minority leader that Terry and I have both challenged, and he had come to our organization and advocated for this amendment that gave plenary power to the public unions in Illinois to be able to negotiate on the most broad terms, like economic welfare and safety, meaning they could. Oh, did we lose her? Oh, she's still there? Okay. Meaning they could they could negotiate policy basically, because they could just tell the bureaucrats that they weren't gonna, this is related to economic welfare or safety. Can you explain to our Republican friends that tell us that we're the bad guy for criticizing this guy for backing this and taking over how much money from that union?
I don't know.
300,000, something like that.
So he took $30,000 from the Illinois Teachers Association. His daughter and my daughter are on the same volleyball team. When I asked him 2.5 years ago, when I was still early in this, I said, "Can you speak out against the porn being in our kids' school?" He reaches out, "Oh, Terry, it'll become political if I get involved." He's a Republican, and I'm like, all I asked him to say is porn was bad, right? He goes, "I'll be a distraction." And I was brand new in this. And then when we found out last summer, he took $30,000 from the Illinois Teachers Association. And then I started calling out, and the Republicans are coming. They come
after us.
They're coming, trying to destroy me. They warned me, and I told them to go screw themselves, right?
They silenced us.
Yeah, and the guy won't speak out for his own daughter.
They silenced us.
So, talk about that, but also, can you give some, because we have like 5 minutes left, can you, like what you went through in California, for the people from the teachers, if you're watching, from Illinois, what can you coach them and tell them how to help us save our country and the things that you've done in California?
And the only way to save this country is for you teachers, please stop funding unions. Anyone funding a government union, I'm not talking about private sector unions, that's a completely different ballgame. But the government unions, if you can't see that the Democrat Party is 100% communist now, everything they're pushing is a communist agenda, including sexualizing our children. That's what communists do. They sexualize children, they divide families, they make people dependent on government. We have community schools now in Illinois and California where kids are going to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner at school, and medical and everything at school. Why? Because we're so kind and we're taking good care of the poor? No, they want every child to get everything from the government. It's because they want to undermine the family. So we have to stop government unions. My goal is to make government unions illegal again. And your friends in the Teamsters and those kind of guys who are strong, we need those strong, powerful men. They're starting to see that, maybe they had a really good relationship before and things were going well before with the Democrats. Well, the Democrat Party's not who they claim to be. They're a mess, and we can all see it. And they're the ones bringing the sexualization of the kids into the schools, along with the so-called teacher unions. And if we can awaken teachers to see that, so many teachers and government union members think their union is good. It's not. If you just dig in and go to our website for kidsandcountry.org, click on union politics, just read what the NEA, National Education Association, passes. If a teacher wants to say, hey, all teachers should be qualified in their subject area and they should be professional, the NEA votes that. No, they vote it down. If it says, let's have open borders, let's harass Trump, let's, bring LGBTQ everything into the classroom, they vote yes.
Yeah.
So their agenda is really obvious. We just have to look at it. I heard last week that the leader of the UAW said to Trump, hey, yeah, we're not endorsing you. We're endorsing Biden, but most of our members are voting for you.
Right.
So maybe it's time that the members of these unions stand up to the union, elites and the union leadership and say, no, you're not our leaders anymore, and we're not Democrats anymore. How powerful could the unions be if they actually started standing for Make America Great Again, right? Started standing for, companies to make things in the United States instead of in China.
Right.
How much more powerful could we be if good guys like the ones you're talking about, who happened to be union members, stood up and said, no more of this communism. We're not funding this anymore. We're not going to be complicit in this anymore. And same with teachers. We fought. Myself, I'm just a little 5'4" teacher out of California, okay? Myself and 10 other California teachers, we all stood against the union machine. And we sued them, and our case went up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And now none of those government employees have to pay a union as a condition of employment anymore. None of them.
That's awesome.
So we
awesome.
took the heat. These short little ladies, we took the heat.
Yeah.
So now the rest of you leave the union. Help us to save the country.
Right.
So I got actually a new announcement, right? So I'm from the southwest side of Chicago originally. My dad, like I said, worked for the city of Chicago. My friend Devin Jones, he's from the southwest side, African-American, Republican. I introduced him to the head of the Illinois RNC and the GOP. And these guys were kind of rhinos. I know you're going to get mad at me. So they're going to be opening up in Chicago the first ever Illinois GOP office, 79th and Western, for Devin. I hate, he's African, he's a Republican, he's American.
I think
right?
That sounds great. That sounds wonderful.
So it's in the edges of, you got African American community, Hispanic, just south of there. It's called the South Side Irish. If you ever see the parades and stuff, it's where I grew up. All union guys, the rank and file union members are voting Republican. So we're going to have a grand opening in a few weeks. I'm very excited and proud to bring this union together. It's going to be national news when you see that, Rebecca. And then
That sounds wonderful.
Sometimes in the future, I got to figure out how to get you here to present at some kind of event that we do here in Chicago. And for those
what's so funny is I was going to invite myself. So let's do it. I'd love to come.
Definitely. And here's Rebecca's book. Friedrichs.
Friedrichs. Jeez. Terrible names.
Fredericks.
Freed.
I freed all
Like
the rich.
she freed-
all
like
the
she
rich.
Freed the rich.
Like she
Oh my
freed
God! No
the-
wonder you're a
The rich.
Republican.
Not the rich, the
I'm
rich.
kidding.
All right.
I'm joking. Come on, I'm joking. So please, if you didn't buy the book, especially people from Illinois, it's in a union, buy this book, and we got to get you out here. I'm going to try my best.
And I'm wondering, do I have 1 minute to tell a Chicago story?
Yes, go ahead.
Sure.
Teacher Joseph O'Cool, one of the most brave teachers I've ever met, crossed the picket line twice and crossed the picket line because he wanted to teach his low-income students whose parents were drug addicts and all these other things. These kids needed him, and the kids weren't going to get an education if he didn't cross the picket line and go teach them, and the unions wanted a bunch of nonsense that he didn't agree with anyway. He crosses the picket line. They've been bullying him ever since. This man started a chess team, like a chess club, after-school chess club, because one of his little students was murdered in the streets of Chicago. This kid was murdered. If I remember right, he was a second grader, and Joseph went to the police and he said, "What happened?" And they said, when these kids go home from school between 3 and 6 and their parents aren't around, this is when they're most vulnerable. Yeah. So Joseph, on his own time, on his own dime, started an after-school chess club from 3 to 6 to keep these kids off the street. This is what loving teachers do. Put his own money in, bought pizza, candy, anything to get these kids interested. Grew the club. That chess club has won national chess tournaments, and Joseph's constantly trying to raise money for it. Amazing man. And the unions bully him constantly. What is he doing? He's teaching children not only how to do math well, he's a math teacher, but he's teaching them how to critically think through chess. And he's giving them an opportunity to win and to have confidence. And these are poor kids, many of them with black skin, brown skin. These kids are the ones the unions claim to be helping. No, the unions are destroying them. And they're destroying Joseph O'Cool. They bully him constantly. I can't even tell you the things they've done. He'd be a good guest for your show. I'll hook you up if you're interested.
So I'm gonna interrupt again because I forgot I wanted to show this from you in the beginning. So this is what kind of launched us on the national stage. I made this PG-13. So when I was at my kid's school board meeting 2.5 years ago, I had these blown up, and I sat in front of the school board. And they, you know what they did after that? So they hated this, right? They're saying this is not pornography. The next school board meeting, after all the liberals during COVID would bring their signs, their graphs, and all this stuff, they said we could no longer bring posters. So I held this up. And then this year when we started our school board meeting, we couldn't bring posters in. So I spoke to the board. On the back of my T-shirt, I had this on my T-shirt. Then I turned around, and they all like, I got you.
They also moved us into like a tiny room instead of an auditorium. So now like only like 10 people can stand up and speak against it.
So thank you for being on the show.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best to figure out how to get you here.
Did you hear that? Did you hear what she said?
I look forward to
Terry?
it.
Our senator is a fellow traveler, according to Rebecca.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a communist. He's helping the
definitely.
unions.
Oh my God.
Senator Curran, are you a communist? I'm just.
Wow.
I'd like to ask you that question. Hopefully you can answer. Well, hey, thanks, Rebecca, so much.
It's been my honor and a pleasure. Look forward to coming to Chicago.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, yeah. So, I mean, I kind of figured that Curran was a communist after, supporting the unions like that and not speaking out against the porn in the schools. and then sending the Gestapo to your house, right?
Yeah. That didn't work out well. Mendix did it. Sheriff Mendix. How's that job? How's the next election coming along, buddy?
We had a little.
And I'm not done with you, boy.
We had a conversation with the DuPage County Board.
I'm not done.
Do we have our next guest coming up? No, okay. So
call your wife. Go ahead, tell some jokes, Paul.
Let's see. Mushroom walks into a bar. Bartender says, "We don't serve your kind here." Mushroom says, "Why not? I'm a fun guy." Huh? No, we got the crickets or what? What's going on here? You trying to find the next guest?
Wait, I'm calling our producer's wife. She was helping us with this.
This was called improvisation. This was not planned, believe it or not, folks.
Hey, is Jennifer there? What's your name? Rufus? Okay.
They're in.
All right, are they in? Yeah. Okay. Wait, who's this guy answering your phone there, John? Rufus Johnson?
Our producer just left. So,
all right, so I'll do this lead in here.
Yeah, we got a couple guests, right?
Perry. Yes. Are they in? Yeah. Hey, how are you?
There we go.
Hello. I don't see him up there yet.
There we go.
Hey, hi, Rachel
Hey,
Scott. I don't hear your audio.
Got it?
There we go. We got you. How are you
doing?
two, huh? So, hey, listen, this is Terry.
How you doing,
my
Paul
partner.
Dravic? Nice to meet
Paul, Army guy. The Army guy.
you. Yeah.
And we're honored to have you on. I mean, it's not a. I feel so bad for you guys and your son and everything you're going through, and appreciate and respect what you're trying to do for your son, because I would do the same thing. And so hopefully, people are going to see this and try to help you guys. But so instead of me talking about, I'd like to hear from one of you guys. Tell us about your son Daniel, what happened. Just a couple comments is that these BLM scumbags in 2020. I went to January 6th peacefully. I didn't do anything wrong. I was labeled a domestic terrorist. I was with a police officer, right? I left before people went in, right? One of the reasons I went is because of the things I saw in 2020. I saw your son and what happened to your son, right? And I saw what happened all over the country in Chicago when they would attack people, and so I got involved actually because of people like your son, right? And what happened? That's why I got involved. And it's like we can't sit back, and so go ahead. Why don't you guys, whichever one of you guys want to start talking and share your son's story and what they want to know about your son, the case, anything that's important to help you guys.
My son's a sergeant in the military, served in Afghanistan, Fort Hood, Germany, all over the country and the world. And what happened is he was stationed at Fort Hood. On the weekends, he was making extra money, with Ubering people and food.
Because they messed up his paychecks.
And so what happened is he wanted to make up some extra money. He had done it before. And he turned the corner. The protesters surrounded his car, started beating on it. And then Garrett Foster, with an AK-47, ran up on him. And my son shot and killed him. But then they chose to charge him with murder. And the district attorney, Garza, he was funded by George Soros. He's openly progressive socialist. And he vowed to get Daniel Perry. If we had a fair trial and he was convicted, we wouldn't be as angry as we are. So at the trial, what would happen is we find out during the trial, they wouldn't allow it in. Garrett Foster was active duty Air Force. He had a mental issue breakdown. He was deemed to be a threat to himself and others, and he was committed to a psychiatric facility while in the Air Force. Shortly after that, he was discharged from the Air Force. Well, the whole trial, they're talking about his lawful right to carry a firearm. And what they also wouldn't allow in, on previous occasions, what they would do is an unsuspecting motorist would take a turn. These were unannounced demonstrations to intimidate people. And then they'd surround the car. In some cases, his fiance, the quadruple amputee in the wheelchair, they'd push her wheelchair to stop the car. They'd surround it, and then Garrett Foster would run up with his assault rifle. And we have video and witness testimony they wouldn't allow in the trial. They wouldn't allow his social media in. They wouldn't allow in that a video he made shortly before that saying how he was going to intimidate anybody who interfered with their protest. And this had been going on for over 2 months. The Austin Police Department was told to stand down, let them, and this is their words, not mine. We're taking over the streets. And God help anybody who took a wrong turn. There was one guy who wanted to testify at the trial. He actually pulled his legally carried firearm, his handgun, and Foster ran away, and he went to the Austin Police Department. He couldn't testify because the DA was going to charge him.
Hey, Scott, isn't it true that the initial officers doing the investigation thought your son shouldn't even be charged?
So during the trial, the lead detective, Detective Fugit, 18-year homicide detective, featured on even crime shows as one of the top detectives in the country, over 20 years with Austin Police Department. He's the real hero. He started crying the alarm when they were trying to do the grand jury. And if you look at the motions filed, the DAs can let evidence in or out, but they can't purposely mislead the grand jury. And that's what he felt he did, but we were overruled by that judge. But he's the one who put his career on the line. The jury never saw the police report, 897 pages, and we were not allowed to put it into evidence or even question the detective about his findings in the case. In the last page, the police, and this is not just one detective, this is all of them, ruled that it was justifiable. And if Garrett Foster had lived, he should have been charged. Because that's what they do. They would stop a vehicle and he'd run up on it. We have video, we have witnesses, not allowed in.
In the ready position.
So he would run up and the weapon was in the ready position. If you look at the video, you can see his elbow coming up.
Yep.
And so my son, that's what he is. He's a infantry combat. He was part of the striker force, and they trained in and out to react to the threat. He just didn't. What people forget is Daniel didn't go to Garrett Foster. Garrett Foster ran over to his car and brought up his assault rifle.
Didn't others hit your son's car too, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. Well, first they do is they stop the car and surround the car.
Yep.
Then they start beating on it. And then their hero, the Garrett Foster, comes running up with his assault rifle at the ready position to terrorize, scare the hell out of it. And he even has an interview. He's there to intimidate and scare the hell out of them.
So
the Austin Police Department asked him and told him, "Hey, the way you're carrying your weapon, something's going to happen. There's going to be someone's going to get killed." You know what Garrett's reaction to the police was? F you.
And that wasn't brought into evidence, right?
No. Well, that was actually in the transcripts. That was brought in. And even the police officer testified, if he had raised the weapon to me, I'd have shot him. Because we had the position of the weapon.
But both of you guys were in the military too, right?
I'm ex-Army. My wife's ex-Army.
Oh, okay.
He's Army, and so is our producer, Army. I'm the only civilian here.
I was 1st Infantry Division out of Fort Riley, Kansas. How about you guys?
I was biomedical engineering at the hospitals, and my wife was a nurse.
Okay. Well, thank you.
And
so was his wife.
My dad was a command sergeant major.
Oh, it's in the family. Okay. Well, thank you for your service, first of all. And thank you for your son's service as well. So, so much of what you're describing sounds like political persecution to me. Obviously, we see a lot of that in the country now with the J6 people, the Kyle Rittenhouse situation up in Wisconsin during that time, around the same time with the riots there. And I was looking at some media reports. Did you guys notice any of how the media was spinning this? Because I found one of these have you ever heard of the Texas Tribune?
Oh yeah, they're a liberal.
Yeah, liberal rag, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but Foster was white, right? He was
Caucasian. Foster was white.
So
it wasn't even. It was a BLM.
Yeah.
LGBT. It was like a mix. Instead of one protest, it was like, let's throw 4 or 5 different things and we'll all
chaos, communists. Yeah, it's kind of the theme of our show today, is how the country's turning into communist because of the Democrats and their corruption. But they had people there from Oregon or Seattle. They would hang out. So what would happen is, hey, we'll go partying with you guys this weekend and we'll go protest. Right. So people come from, it's like a vacation for them. And obviously Foster was on the side of the protest, right? He was protesting for. Yes. If you look at, here's an article from the Texas Tribune. I'm just going to read the headline. Okay. Sure. Racist comments, threats Daniel Perry made before killing Austin protester. The guy was white. So, this is a non sequitur attack against your son. And before we mentioned that the prosecutor who was trying the case was George Soros funded. We got a little bit of a problem. Yeah. We got a problem with that in our city as well with Kim Foxx. In our city, it was the Jesse Smollett case, right? Which was total farce, right? That was Kim Foxx. That was a Soros funded. In George Gascon in L.A. He's the guy letting the murderers out, right?
New York.
So in New York,
The
that's
cops that
right.
just got beat up.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, and let me ask you. So on that note, thank you for bringing that up, Terry, because that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys. Can you just describe how what your thoughts are when you look at this country and you see the kind of injustice that your son has gone through, you know, with a corrupt prosecutor like that, not allowing evidence into the trial, things of that nature. And then you turn it on the TV or you look on Twitter and you see a bunch of illegals attack a police officer and then get let go without any bail, free to go. And that's it. They'll never have to come to account for their actions.
What we realize now is two issues. One, I went to work the elections as one of the precinct judges,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the problem is well, we just go and vote. That's the only political thing we do,
Right.
and that's about it. We go to work, we raise our kids, we're not out on the street. But the problem is oh, it would never happen to me. Oh, that happened to January 6th.
Yeah.
That happened to Rittenhouse. That happened. It would never. And then when it happens to you, you're saying, why didn't I get involved? I'm part of the problem that these people were able to get voted in the first place.
Right.
And the second thing is, Texas is not like Austin.
Yeah.
If this has happened anywhere else in the state of Texas,
You would never gone.
this would never happen. And for an 18-year police detective to lose his career, he was braided. He had to leave by the DA to put his career on the line because he saw the injustice, and he had been the top
Lead detective.
lead detective in all the murder cases for 18 years, and he basically gave up his career because of the injustice.
I was just in Austin. I was in my buddy lives in the Woodlands, but we went to Austin to check things out. It's dystopian. It looks like Blade Runner. I mean, there's these big skyscrapers and technology everywhere, and at the same time, there's homeless people riddling the streets, walking around like zombies everywhere.
Sounds like Chicago, but
everywhere.
warmer.
Yeah. That's what you're.
Well, thank God we got Governor Abbott. And right now, Governor Abbott has urged the pardon and parole people to the board to review and, if possible, recommend a pardon.
Yeah, so I called
different.
Paxton. I called Paxton's assistant today, left a message, asked him if he's got any updates for us. He didn't get back to me. I talked to him about some other things. Hopefully you guys are going to get good news soon.
What
they're
are
reviewing
the
it.
prospects, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I think what you're going to find is the pardon and parole board. I think they're going to be very thorough. It's tough for us because my son's sitting in prison wondering, why am I here?
Right.
But I think, they just are going to be very thorough, because if they give him a pardon, which they should, God help, God hope so. And
We just pray.
we pray. My wife cries all the time. But
Yeah.
and Governor Abbott said if a pardon's recommended,
He'll sign it.
he'll sign it. It's the first time a governor has asked the pardon and parole board, I want you to review this case.
Did he say that before your son was sentenced?
No, he said it after he
Oh,
was
did
sentenced.
he? Okay.
Obviously, there's plans to appeal if that doesn't go your way. Right.
definitely.
Yeah.
Right, but we're giving the pardon and parole board,
Sure.
hopefully, and then. But the problem in Texas, let's just say this doesn't work out, and we get an appeal, which is going to take 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
It goes back before the same judge and the same prosecutor all over again.
Oh my God.
So the court says, "Hey, you didn't do everything right. He deserves a new trial, but we're going to give it to you again." And they're mad anyways because it got kicked back to them,
Yeah.
and you got to go back through it all over again.
Jeez,
How's that fair?
So is there any
The system
political
is terrible.
influences on the I don't know how that works, right? But I mean,
Their habits change.
what is the outcry for your son, right? And when I talked to Rachel too about coming on the show and stuff, right? Tell everyone how much money you guys had to spend to defend your son. Also tell them, unlike that guy in New York that got charged with murder,
Daniel Penny.
Unfortunately, your son was charged at the wrong time politically in this country during 2020 riots, right? So people were scared to get involved and support him for the right thing, unlike this other guy. So explain about, what it cost and where you're at.
People have donated, and bless them. I mean, $5, $10. You can't even read it because it makes you cry that we have patriots in this country that give whatever they can. And it's not the greatest, but it's like 160,000 altogether. But out of our own pockets, we're in our 60s. We've spent over $500,000.
Oh my!
And I think what happened is the DA thought he'd just sweep in there. And but if I thought for 1 second that my son was a racist, instigated, did any of this stuff, I wouldn't take our retirement. You know what I mean? To fund the case if I thought for 1 second.
So it's very important that folks that you see this, right? The Give, Send, Go. It's on the screen right now. You guys gotta give, because we can't let the veteran parents and soldier, this guy sit in jail because of these scumbags that are making him a political pawn for the real terrorists. BLM, Antifa, those guys are the terrorists of our country, right?
Oh, yeah.
They were the instigators. They're the one. I said earlier today, I posted your son. He should have got a medal and a trip to Disney World.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
So obviously, you look at that Daniel Penny situation in New York. You look at your son's situation. Everything you guys have gone through, and I'm not sure if your son was overtly political or anything like that, but do you have a sense that there is an active political persecution effort going on in our country, and that people like your son are being made example of by the far leftist communist type of district attorneys? Is that something that you feel?
It's not about a prosecution. It's about a persecution. And destroy that. If you have a different point of view, they'll do everything they can to destroy you. You can't have a political difference. Now, my son was I'm not going to lie, Trump supporter, conservative, just like many soldiers are. The social media that you saw was taken out of context, and there were some racist memes and all that. That was fellow soldiers, and they were black soldiers sending stupid stuff to each other. We know what barracks humor is.
Yeah.
We used to maybe give cartoons, but now it's all video. He didn't make these.
Yeah.
It was just a bunch of barracks buddies putting stupid pictures.
Scott, the Southern Poverty and Law Center did a 4-page hit piece on me because I started sticking up for porn, right? They said I'm a racist. You see this stuff. And then they put it in the local papers. My mom is upset, my wife, my children, calling me a racist, of stuff that's just exaggerated. So I know exactly what you're saying without even looking at what happened. They take things out of context and they spin it and they lie. And
to that point, though, you'd say this isn't about justice. This is about nefarious intentions to make an example out of the wrong political perspective.
You know what my dad used to say, and my dad was pretty straight-laced military command sergeant major, but you know what he used to say? People like us, like there'd be someone complaining or protesting, it's because of people like us that you have the right to even stand out here. Some of us, like you and Daniel and other people, we believe in support our country, honor our country. These people are hell-bent on destroying everything about our country. They want to destroy the country. People like you and I and my son honor, and we have duty to our country. But
we're productive citizens. We're productive. We contribute. We give time. We volunteer for things that to help our community. I mean, we're not radicals in either way.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that your son Daniel, all these radical leftists who want to point the finger and say, look at he's a racist or this, that, the other thing. I guarantee you virtually 100% of those people have never put their life on the line for a stranger. And that's what your son has done. And so I don't take a lot of credence into any of what these radicals who are going after him are doing. It's strictly political. It's nefarious. It's evil. It's a communist.
But at one time they were calling him like a neo-Nazi and all that.
Oh, same here.
He's my son's a practicing Jew. They wouldn't let him in anyways.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's how stupid it is.
If that was me, I would have ran that guy's girlfriend over in the wheelchair and backed up over her, and then. I shouldn't say that. That's a joke. But Rachel, what would you want to share with the country about your son? Right? What would you like to share with them? And then when we're done with this, I'm gonna spread this around and try to get you guys on some other shows to get the story out there, so you guys could help recover some of the funds you spent from your retirement to try to help your son and yourself recover that. So as a mother, what would you want the country to know about your son?
First of all, the people who have supported us, we really appreciate everything they've done for us, whether it was monetary or just calling or talking to us about it. My family has no history with the judicial system. We don't know anything corrupt. We didn't think anything was corrupt in the Daniel Perry that was happening. I mean, that's our baby. I mean, he was an Eagle Scout. He is an Eagle Scout. Military, serving the country.
Being in Afghanistan, being in Germany, being on the border of Russia
and Poland,
being in Seattle. And some of the comments was when he was stationed outside of Seattle. Seeing the place go on fire, Alaska. I mean, he's been, 10, 12 different places. He's been in almost 13 years. All he wanted to do was honor and serve his country, and he made a career out of the military.
Well, that's gone too.
Yeah.
They ruined that career. You'd never be able to go back.
If Trump wins, he'll be back.
He'll go to Israel.
No, the military, military, discharges them other than honorable. So.
Yeah. They, after all these years, he got but hopefully, I think if this pardon comes true, and, thank God we have Greg Abbott. If it comes to him, he said he'll sign it. My son will hopefully have some sort of life back.
Well, I hope to God that happens, and then I would turn around and sue the state for,
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So Scott, Rachel, Paul and I promise we're going to do our best to get you more visibility that you guys deserve beyond us. And I'm going to share this. I know we got lots of people watching it, and everyone that sees the Give, Send, Go down there, please help.
Please help.
Even a little bit. I know my mom will. When my mom sees my 84-year-old mother, I promise she's watching Rachel. She's going to give some money there, and I know a lot of people will. And I'm so grateful you're here and standing up for your son. And we'll do everything we can to try to get you the visibility that you deserve for your son.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your son's service. We'll do whatever we can to help out.
Well, thank you for you're doing your service right now. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks. Hang in there.
Good luck, folks.
Bye.
Oh, man. It's tough to see a mom like that. I know when I was in Iraq, my mom was pretty tore up. I can't imagine what it must be like to watch your son get persecuted by his own country after he's everything he's done. It's
and these are the same scumbags that destroyed America in 2020.
And they're destroying it now. They're destroying it even more. I mean, that's why we're doing this. We're in one of the more radical communist strongholds in Illinois. You can only imagine what they would do to him here. I mean,
that pisses me off seeing it. My front grill will be full of wheelchair wheels, Antifa and BLM. I'm serious.
Well, I mean, if they turn the if they turn the
It's
lights
like-
out and it's Civil War, you might get your wish. Well, I'm looking like we got to close out. I just want to mention a couple things, Terry. So we had this article from Wire Points that showed how our Illinois Attorney General is one of 23 attorney generals who is filing to overturn the Missouri versus Biden case, which was all about how the government had pressured and weaponized the government to censor the social media accounts. So if they overturned it, now the government would have freedom to censor. So that's Illinois, right? Our attorney general, he wants to go after your freedom of speech. I mean, this is where we're at, and they're open about it, And then, of course, the other article I want to point out was this Daily Herald article where a handful of politicians switch parties citing extremism. I just want to point out
Is
again.
it the Democrats, or are they talking about our side?
They mention a Democrat. They mentioned one Democrat in there that switches to Republican, but we know about DeCiani in DuPage County. We talked to a lady the other day who says, I just want to point out, folks, these people are saying that the Republican Party changed or the Republicans went extreme. Okay. Once again, the left owns all the institutions, government, unions, education, media, entertainment. And it's the right that's gone too far because of Donald Trump. They control these institutions. They're the one putting porn in your schools, right? They're the one. They're the one that are persecuting parents for trying to get the porn out of the schools. They're the one putting critical race theory in your schools and pushing segregation. We're back to segregation, They're the ones that are creating the Safety Act in Illinois and cashless bail. So now we have more crime. They're the ones giving driver's license to illegal aliens. They're the ones that are allowing non-citizens, illegals basically, to become police officers. Yeah. So it's the Republicans, Terry. So I just wanted to point that out that this is Illinois for you. They want to go after your First Amendment rights. They've already taken your Second Amendment rights, and now Republicans. This is what communism is. Republicans want to join the team that's winning. It's crazy, and yet we get criticized for calling out the guy who wants to give the teachers unions more power. Senate Minority Leader. Man, you call that guy a leader? You're a joke. You're a joke. You're a liar. You're a disgrace to the Republican Party.
Yeah, you're not going to get reelected, buddy.
No.
Mendix, you better not even run again.
So
I'm not done with you.
It's just the Democrats are communists. That's what we're facing right now. They want to take away our rights, and John Curran, you want to help them because you want to say, oh, Amendment 1's not a hill to die on. Let's give the government all of our rights.
So. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
So next week, I think we have Noel Friedrich or whatever. He's a reporter, motorcycle enthusiast, and he drove into Ukraine on a motorcycle. He's got really cool stuff, man. The guy's cool as shit. He's from England, so he's going to have some cool stories and pictures. He's going back. Actually, he's going back to Ukraine, I think, on the 20th of this month, and I think he's at the Cannes, some kind of film thing or whatever now. So he's going to be on. Then we're going to talk about Mendix.
Yeah, well,
Sheriff Barney Fife Mendix, and how he came after me, Paul, insulted us, lied about us, bragged about going after me and my family, bragged about the police are going to come to his house, and I'm coming after him. So we're going to talk about that.
Weaponize his office against citizens.
Yeah. You're supposed to be law enforcement, right?
Folks, we have on the side, we have a local battle that we're involved in. So we do these interviews and we do these podcasts, but we're also involved in local politics. I'm running for the local Republican organization chairmanship here in Downers Grove. And we're fighting against the rhinos in DuPage County in Illinois.
Oh, wait. Not everyone's a rhino in DuPage County. We've got Greg Boltz. He's more like an elephant. Elefino, I guess. Yeah.
I know he's watching.
I'm not done with you. I'm not done with you.
I don't even go there. But yeah, I mean, so one rhino at a time, right there.
Yeah. And we get the elephant.
Then we'll get to the elephant.
Oh, that's a joke. That wasn't like that wasn't a physical threat. That was a joke. All right, I don't need the cops at my house.
Terry
again.
and I are going on a safari here in Illinois. Well, that's all I got. Hey, like, share, subscribe. Everybody, we are over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
No, 2,500.
2,500. We're at 2,500 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you to everyone who's liked, shared, subscribed, gotten out there, because that's gonna allow us to do
pay
even
for the
more,
electricity
to
for
do
our-
even more. Yeah,
for our
yeah,
computers.
exactly.
No,
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
It's a joke.
And
Thank you.
bring us some more videos like we don't need no stinking
Yeah.
badges.
So going forward, we're not going to show as much on Facebook because we're on the edge of getting taken down by
Plus they're
the
communists,
Marxists.
too.
But we're going to talk about, we're going to do little shorts and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're watching us on Facebook, are we on Facebook tonight? I think so. Yeah. So if you're watching us on Facebook, you got to go on Rumble. You got to go on Twitter.
YouTube.
You got to go on YouTube.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Please. I know we got a lot
Rumble's
of old
a good
fans.
one, folks.
So get off your wheelchair and go switch, man. Switch to Rumble, Twitter, or
Check
YouTube.
out Rumble. Check out Rumble.
Getter.
Rumble's a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.